Okay, thanks, Stacey. I'm Miriam, and this is Peta, who's very graciously come in today on her day off to help me out so I wouldn't get so stressed. And she's brought the lovely Matilda, her 4-year-old. So you may see a lovely little head pop up every now and again. And we're in the small confines of our office here. So there are other staff walking around. We apologise for that, but they've got to get a job done. So in the confines that we're managing today, I wanted to firstly say thank you for allowing us to be part of your carers support group. We've only just come on board, so this has thrown us a little bit in the deep end, but we're loving it. It's been a very busy few weeks, so we're trying to get the service up and running smoothly for everyone. Our support coordinators felt that it might be a good idea to have some in-services, and this is one of the topics that apparently comes up quite a bit, is just that, you know, transfers, moving things from here to there, that sort of thing. But as you're aware, it's a massive topic that usually can run all day if we wanted it to. So we're going to try and keep it very basic, but we're hoping with your feedback, if there's a topic that you think you'd like us to expand on in the future, then definitely let the service know, and we can focus on that specific topic and future ones. So hopefully we get everything covered today. Because we're stuck in confines, I mean, we wanted to be able to demonstrate a lot of these transfers, but that may not be possible today. We'll give it a go, but just, yeah, we'll see how we go in the confines of the space we're dealing with. This webinar is really just a series of slides, and it's just easy to use reference guide for carers to demonstrate accepted methods for moving or transferring a person in their care. I mean, our aim is to encourage mobility and to reduce the risk of injury and severity of injury. So really that's our goal here today. So yeah, we move on. Okay, so every in-service starts with a definition. So manual handling and transfers, it's different. So manual handling, they really just refer to it as any activity requiring the use of force exerted by a person to lift, lower, push, pull, carry, or otherwise move, hold, or restrain a person, animal, or thing. Very complicated. Today, we're really just going to be focusing on transferring our loved ones mostly. Okay, sorry, thanks.
So on to me. So we might start with a little bit of anatomy, so we know what we're talking about. So the back is made up of the spine, the spinal cord, and the muscles. The spine is made up of vertebrae that aims to protect the spinal cord, provide structural support and balance to allow us to sit upright and move about. Vertebrae are connected by discs, and these kind of act like shock absorbers. There's 31 pairs of nerves that send messages from the brain through the spinal cord to the body, and approximately 400 muscles that stabilise the spine to allow us to sit upright and move about. So back injuries occur as a result of impact, overdoing repetitive movements, sudden exaggerated movements or twisting, improper ergonomics such as incorrect lifting or sitting all day with poor posture. And then we need to keep in mind other health considerations such as osteoarthritis, skeletal irregularities, thank you, such as rounding of the back, and osteoporosis. So if we have a look at the picture that we've got on the slide, there's different colours. The red bit is our cervical spine. The blue bit is our thoracic spine. The yellow bit further down is the lumbar spine. And that yellow bit is where we generally will experience a back injury. And then we've got some stats that are staggering. 80% of adults are estimated to experience a back injury in their lifetime. However, as carers, some of you may already have injuries or chronic health problems that may make our risk of experiencing those injuries a little bit higher. So what does that mean for us? It means that we are lifting, we're pushing, we're pulling every day, and we need to think about our body. We need to think about what we're doing at home. When we're picking up the laundry basket, we might be getting the newspaper, we might be bringing shopping in from outside, we might be lifting up a child or a pet, or moving a pot plants. So if you have a bit of a think about how you do this, I want to know whether or not we are using good lifting technique, and whether are we pushing or are we pulling. So if we think about it first, As a general rule, it's safer to push an object than pull it. When you push it, you use the strength of your legs and your back to move the object. You can really get your weight behind it. But when you pull, the tendency is to stand flat-footed and yank, relying solely on your body without using the leg muscles. And this increases our risk of injury. So, what is good lifting technique? So good lifting technique involves keeping our back in a neutral position. I'll show you in a second. I'll be lifting up my daughter. Bending at your hips and pushing your bottom back. Keeping your chest and head up. So this allows our body to get into good spinal alignment. So our neck and our back is all aligned on top of each other. Use our legs to lift, and then we keep the objects close to your body with our elbows tucked in. And we move our feet rather than their body. So if you want to put it onto the big screen so people can see. The big screen. So stop sharing the screen. Get going. So just go down the bottom there. No, it's not working. I'll stop sharing the screen.
Here we go.
Cool. So do you have a big picture of me on the screen? Just if I get some nods, maybe. Can you see okay? Yeah, all right. So I'm just going to turn this one around so that you can see. So when we're going to pick, what I'm doing, I don't know if you can see my feet there. So my feet are pointed straight ahead. I'm then going to move in nice and close. I'm going to push my bottom out as far as I can, allowing my back to stay in that neutral sort of position. I'm then going to get my arms in nice and close with my elbows tucked in, keeping my head up and my chest up. So I'm going to do now is just lift Matilda up, and then I'll use my legs to actually pick her up. So when I then go to move, rather than twisting my body to the side, I'm actually taking small steps and I'm moving her around. Then I'm going to put her down. You're a great helper. Then go back to share screen. Cool. There are variations to that lift. If you were to pick things up off the floor, you can get down on one knee. You could prop with one arm, or you can bend the hip and keep one arm and one leg straight. But I'm not going to review those positions today. But if you want more information on them, or if you want practical on it, or see what it looks like, let us know, and we can lay across a range of activities. I'm going to be completely honest with you and admit that I don't. I will use good lifting technique when the load is heavy, but not when the load is light. So this in-service has been a really, really good reminder for me to kind of go, oh, I really need to think about my manual health, particularly when I'm picking up, you know, a toy off the floor, or if I'm, you know, picking up the groceries and putting them on the bench. Because back injuries can occur at all times and at any times, and they can even occur when the load is light. So if you're like me and you change the heavy that lift is, I encourage you to join me and see if you can do a little better when we practice good lifting technique for everything that we lift.
Okay, so we're generally what we're trying to focus on today, rather than that manual handling, that, you know, the pot plant and everything like that. We're actually focusing at the moment more on transfers. So when we're moving our loved ones, we need to make it a conscious movement, because all those other things we do day to day, we do them unconsciously. Okay, so we have to try and make it as consistent so that the person knows each time this is going to be the way that they're going to be transferred. They can anticipate and help as well. And we do that by good communication, talking to our loved ones, saying, how are you going today? Do you think you can help me with this? We're going to move from here to there, you know, that sort of thing. And that way you've got a less chance of an injury. So when we talk about transfers, we're encouraging a carer to transfer the body weight of the person being moved rather than lifting them. And we can use lots of different equipment for that as well. And so the following principles are to ensure the safety of everybody involved. Yeah. And we're just going to talk these through because it's so hard to demonstrate them, but try and visualize best you can about your situation in your head. Yeah.
Okay. So think about what you're about to do.
Right.
Yeah. We'll keep going. So think about what you're about to do. The safest, think about how you're actually going to do it and when you're going to do it. And then kind of think about, what do I actually need to do this transfer? Where am I actually going to move my loved one? Is it from the bed to a wheelchair? Is it off the toilet into onto a walking frame? Where am I actually going to do this? What equipment do I actually need? Where do I actually need to put that equipment? Is there anything in the way? Is there, I don't know, the laundry basket on the floor? Is you know, the door shut, or something happens? So can we move bits and pieces out of the way? When we are ready to do the transfer, what we need to do then is talk. Let's let that person know exactly what's going to happen, who's going to do what and when they're going to do it, and then get into position. So position your feet, as we talked about before, making sure that they're on the ground, slightly apart with your knees over the toes. Then think about where you're actually going to put your hands. So you don't want to pull on bits of clothing or pull an arm. The reason why we don't want to pull an arm is because you can actually do damage to a shoulder. So we're looking at what we call key points of controls. So that's around the hips, and then it could be up around under the arms as well. We want to keep, as we're lifting, as you saw me do before, is keeping the load or the person close to your body. So we've got that dance position. So as soon as we move or lift something that's out of reach, it becomes a lot heavier for us, and that's where we get sort of injury. Again, we want to try to maintain that good posture. We want to twist in. So if we do need to turn, we need to move our feet rather than twisting our body, and using our leg muscles. So if it's getting that bottom out, then we can actually use our legs rather than our back to move. And use momentum too. So if we're helping someone get off the chair, then we can count 1, 3, we might be moving backwards and forwards, and then on that third time, then that's when you might be going to stand. So we're actually using momentum to kind of help with that lift.
You there, I'm wearing it. If you're worried about where to hold your loved one, or they're very frail, these are transfer. Okay, this Velcro on and off is completely adjustable. Okay, and they've got little handles, so they're great for walking with somebody. They're great for helping to give them a bit of momentum to stand. Okay, really nice firm grips over the hips there. So really useful for lots of transfers off chairs, out of cars, and portable. They can go anywhere with you. Okay. Sorry, it's all going very fast, but we were aware of time. I can do this one. So where Peter touched on the basic principles, there are certain rules as well, and there's so many there. I'm really just going to pull out the ones that, you know, might pertain to you. But yeah, things like don't get into a position that already feels uncomfortable before you've even done the transfer. If it feels uncomfortable before the transfer, it's going to definitely be uncomfortable during the transfer. So lots of carers, if you've already got, you know, bad knees or sore hands, you're going to have to look at ways to adapt the transfer, and that's where your health professional can really assist you guys. We usually say never transfer if you're unsure or not confident, because there's also room for lots of injury there. So again, asking your health professional to help you out with some in the home training. And when in doubt, don't transfer. Well, that's unrealistic because we do have to move our loved one, but that's where that clear communication is important. Never try to catch a falling person, even if you want to. I know it's hard to refrain from doing that, but don't try and catch a falling person because you don't want to be taking all of that weight on your back. Be aware of your own abilities and physical limitations. That's similar to the first point. Utilise equipment where possible. So little things like the transfer belt, but there's lots of other gadgets we'll show you as well. Never pull on the limbs. Avoid transferring over a long distance. So this is really important. You don't want to go from bed out to the lounge chair to transfer somebody. So you want to be bringing wheelchair in. It's an extra transfer, unfortunately, but then off to the lounge chair and then transferring from wheelchair into the lounge chair. Avoiding the repetitive transfers. That small working space, unfortunately, we have them in every house. The bathroom is small, sometimes the toilet is small. But again, clear communication, making sure there's no hazards in the way, using equipment where possible. And where possible with the height, I'm 6'2". You want to be looking at things that are adjustable in height. So is the chair at a good height? Is the bed at a good height? And it can be as simple as putting blocks underneath, as to where, you know, you could use electric equipment. And avoid loose-fitting clothing. Try not to be doing your transfers in thongs and or your high heels. I don't wear high heels, I'm 6'2", but yeah, your thongs and that sort of thing. Okay, so they're general rules that we take for granted, but if we stop and think about them, make it conscious, you're less likely to have an injury. Okay, oh, the good old core. Everyone would have told you you've got to strengthen your core after you've had a baby or whatever. So does everyone know where their core is? Have a little read. It's about contracting the pelvic floor muscles at the same time and drawing your navel in towards your spine. And by doing that, you're bracing all those muscles that support the spine. Okay, so this is where we're going to try and make things conscious. So before you go to do your transfer, you want to consciously try and do that bracing to prevent the lower back injury. Okay, so just try practicing it now. They tell you to do it in the car at a red light, practicing using your core. So just everyone, if you want to pull it towards your spine, okay, to see how you go, and try and breathe at the same time. It's not easy. And then do a transfer. You have to be very talented. Okay, so well done, everyone. Awesome. Okay, so standing pivot transfer. That's, again, very hard to demonstrate for you guys. We're trying to pull some equipment out the back here. But what we might do, what of them there, now they're from all of different countries, different people, different scenarios. Some are based in hospitals, some are based in homes, but it's just to give you a quick link if you wanted to look more into a particular transfer style. So we call this one a standing pivot transfer. It's one of the most common transfers when you can still weight bear somewhat. And, you know, it can be from wheelchair to bed, chair, car, that kind of scenario. So that's where these transfer belts are really handy, but also getting a good hold on someone's hips for that one. And we're probably not going to be able to do a transfer. It's literally coming in very close, like Peter did with Matilda, and doing the 1, 2, 3 scenario. Okay, I'm sitting for this one, but only because I'm so tall. But it's doing that 1, 2, 3 scenario. So you're going to say, Peter, we're going to come into stand now. I've got my feet very close to hers. Yep, she's popped her arms gently there. She's not to pull on me. You need to emphasize that to your loved one. They're not to pull on your neck or shoulders, but just to rest their arms there. And we're going to use momentum. 1, 2, and she's going to come up with me. Now, obviously, I would be in stand for that transfer. I'd be holding on maybe to her belt, that kind of scenario. But that is one of the most common transfers, because then once you have them in stand, you're going to do that little pivot, and you're basically going to sit them down onto a chair, onto the bed, into wheelchair. So they do need to be weight bearing for that one. Okay, but please watch the link if you need more details. We'll have us come out to practice with you. So this is a transfer board. I'm not sure if anyone has seen them. You can see the lady in the slide. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes. Some come with swivel things. Yeah, some don't come with cutouts like that. Queensland Rehab very kindly loaned us this one. We do have a few of our own. Very popular. Well, here we go again. Can we see? Very popular for the wheelchair, that cutout one, because what's going to happen is, in this regard, you're going to make sure all your equipment is set up, brakes are on, foot rests are out the way, everything's clear. This is when your loved one has very weak leg muscles, but perhaps is stronger in the arms, and so they can assist. And it's just bridge the gap, basically. So you can assist by helping them to get the board under, asking them to lean over, wedging it under their bottom like that. And then it's a matter of just pushing your weight through. Push, push, just little arm movements to bridge the gap across. So that's where it's just a sliding transfer. Okay. Hopefully you saw that one okay. But there is a link again on the screen. Brakes off. Okay, cool.
So the hoist transfer, we won't hoist today, just given that we're very sensitive in terms of space and options. But I'll just bring out a hoist. Hopefully you can see this okay.
Not everyone would have seen a hoist, I guess.
Just angle that a little bit better. So with the hoist, they come with two different attachments. This attachment here we call a pivot attachment. You also hear names of a wishbone attachment, just because it kind of looks like, a wishbone from a chicken. The nice thing about the pivot attachment is that it'll be easy to move when there's someone in it. So if you see me struggle a little bit, it's not because it's difficult, it's just that it's hard to do without someone actually being in the sling. But the idea behind the wishbone is that you can move someone from a lying position into a sitting position just by pushing down on the handle bit here. So I can kind of take out some of that repositioning. Sorry, my daughter's just come back here. Apologies for that. The other thing to know about the hoist too, so this is, as I said, this is the pivot attachment. The other attachment is, we call it the coat hanger, or a yoke if you like, and it's just a straight bar that goes across the top. How you change the position of someone with a yoke attachment is going to be dependent on the sling that you actually have. So with the sling, if you have a sling that's got these little clips on them, they're the ones that go onto the wishbone attachment, because they've got these little knobbly bits here that you fit the sling into. If you were to have a yoke or that coat hanger attachment, what you do, you have some loops. So the sling will have bits on them, they're kind of looped like that. Now the slings have different sized loops on them, so they're generally colour-coded red, green and blue, I think. Red, white and yellow. And basically they're different lengths. And the idea behind them is if you wanted someone to be in a lying position, then you would actually put the longest loops on. If you wanted someone in a sitting position, then the loops would be long at the top, short at the top and long at the bottom. So you can actually change the position that you actually move someone by the loops that you use on the sling. So you don't have to do that yanking and the pulling to actually get someone into the right position. The other thing about the hoist as well, which is generally, now I see it a lot. I don't know if you can see here down the bottom, we have some brakes. So they're red. Everything that you can do to the hoist generally, or pieces of equipment, are different, normally colour coded, so it's easier to see. So on here, the brakes are red. When you go to hoist, you don't want your brakes on. Now the reason behind that, if I were to put my brakes on and then hoist someone up, something's got to move, because the person's coming up in the sling, and all got to do with physics and whatever else. What actually happens is something's got to move. If the brakes are on the hoist, what actually happens, I don't know if you can see the chair, but what actually happens is the chair tips up, the tip tips back like this. And this is what we don't want, because your husband or your loved one or whoever it may be sit in the chair, and the chair starts to tip back and then it falls over. So we definitely want to keep the brakes off the hoist. Other things that we kind of see a fair bit with the hoist is, oh, my hoist is not working. I've charged the battery and it's not working. Now there's a couple of reasons that this may happen. One could be if the battery is flat. So charging it overnight or keeping it plugged in when you're not using it's always an idea. But the other thing around the hoist too is that if you've got this little red button here, that red button's pushed in, the hoist is not going to move. The hoist actually won't move. So it's your emergency stop button. So if your hoist is not moving for whatever reason, check to see that the emergency stop button's not pushed in. If it's pushed in, all you're going to do is give it a bit of a swivel and it'll pop out again. Let's say if you've got someone up in the hoist and your battery runs out. Generally, there's always enough battery to do one hoist up and down. If it doesn't for whatever reason, there is a little button that you can get a pen, and it's not on here because I haven't got the battery, and you push a pen, because everyone's got a pen with them all the time. You put your pen in it and then it'll override and it'll go up and down. The other way that you can do it too is you've got this little red bit here. You can actually push on here and this will actually move the hoist down. So you've got a manual assist for your emergency stop, as well as the battery with the little pen button in the hoist as well. So they're probably the big things with the hoist. The other thing, where again, because we're talking manual handling a lot, is actually how we move the hoist. So I said before that it's in terms of manual handling, it's safer to actually push the hoist than actually pull the hoist. Now this is easier said than done, because if you're wanting to move the hoist around, sometimes it's easier to actually kind of come on the side and try to yank it around this way, particularly if your carpet's really thick, that it's hard to move a hoist across the carpet. So try as much as you can to get nice and close into the handles at the back and try to move around, to try to move the hoist around. And this is why, I guess, when we talked about before, planning the transfer is really important, particularly with the hoist, because the legs are prone to get stuck underneath the bed. So just kind of have a think about where you're actually sliding the hoist into, how you're going to get the hoist out of, where you have to move it to. And if you do have thick carpet, thinking about, can we actually put down another surface down there, because pushing small little casters over thick carpet is incredibly difficult.
Can I just interrupt? A really important rule with hoisting is not to travel long distances with this hoist. The hoist idea is really just to lift from bed, pop into chair or commode or anything like that. It's not, again, to wheel down the hallway and pop the loved one in the lounge chair. It's quite dangerous to actually travel because they will swing, unfortunately. So that's one of the big things too.
The other thing that you'll hear quite commonly with the hoist is you need 2 people to use a hoist, particularly when we've got care support coming in. They'll go, I won't hoist if there's not an extra person being there. And that's, we've got to think about that and go, there's going to be times when it's just going to be yourself and you need to hoist. Now, it can be safe to hoist one person, but there are tricks of the trade. That's, it'll be worthwhile talking to your OT or your physio on how to actually do this and how to do this safely in your home environment.
You definitely should get training. You should never have a hoist delivered and then be expected to use it successfully first go. There should always be training around using a hoist. Yeah. Not as easy as it looks. Peter made it look very easy, but it's not as easy as it looks. It's the sling, isn't it, Peter? Getting the sling on and off.
No, it's all good. That and the thing with the sling too is that the more practice you do, the easier
it does.
It becomes.
You'll be very proficient.
And I think we're going to slide sheets next.
Yeah. So just move over. There we go. So again, we're not going to show these transfers, are we? There's different YouTube videos of a 2-person, 1-person. Slide sheets are very slippery, aren't they?
Yeah. So the last thing I think I'm going to stand up again because I find it easier to talk standing up for a weird reason. But anyway, when it comes to the slide sheet, if you put this underneath someone as is, like a sheet, no one's going to slide on it. It's just like a just normal sort of sheet to be underneath someone. The idea behind the slide sheet is that the slide sheet needs to be folded in half so that you have a slippy surface against a slippy surface. So when you go to pull the slide sheet, what actually happens is that it slides really, really easily. So slide sheets are used primarily in the bed to move someone up and down the bed, to roll someone in the bed from on the back to on the side. And it can also be used before, as Miriam was talking about with the transfer board. Sometimes it's really tricky to use a transfer board because people don't slide, you kind of stick on it. So again, there's some tricks of the trade with that. You can use a slide sheet, but if you use a slide sheet, my advice would be to make sure you've practiced with your OT, your physio first, because people move really quickly. So you can slide a lot faster than you're actually intending to do so. You can also use sheepskin, and some people too like to use talcum powder as well, so it can help with the slide, but that way you just get covered in talcum powder.
Okay, so moving on to the bathroom and transfers that we might do in the bathroom. In the picture there is a beautifully modified bathroom, which would be way too easy with transfers, wouldn't it? So ideally in the real world, we don't all have bathrooms that look like this. But what we can do is we can do some minor modifications or some major modifications to allow bathrooms for easier access and transfers. So as you can see in that picture, that's a walk-in shower, which would allow things for like people to use mobile shower commodes. There's grab rails on the wall to assist with transfers as well. Equipment is definitely needed for bathroom transfers, as we find that we might be getting some weakness. Equipment will definitely come into play. So I'm just going to take you over to where some of this equipment is. And your OT and physio can put you in touch with trials for this equipment, so we can see what works best for people. So up in the corner here we have the shower transfer mobile shower commode. It has two functions. It can be used over the toilet as well as in the shower. So that makes the number of transfers you have to do easier, because you're literally only having to transfer once onto the chair, but you can go over the toilet and then into the shower. Okay, we've got things like a little swivel seat if people only have a bathtub, a shower over bath. We've got a little swivel seat that swivels, and then the loved one can help bath. The top picture shows a raised toilet seat with some handrails on the side. There's also a shower transfer bench, again for that bathtub scenario. You've got things like bath boards down there as well.
On that too, just with the transfer bench, the top one where you've got kind of legs sticking out of the bath, you can actually get a shower commode that goes on top of that transfer bench as well, and it just slides across. So if someone can't actually sit on a transfer bench like that, there are options.
Oh, there's things for everything these days. That's, I think, the message you need to take away. There are gadgets and gizmos for everything, and if there's not, then we have the ability to adapt those things. And then finally, you'll see that blue little inflatable, yeah, swimming pool is a good word for it actually, inflatable shower base. So when there's no other options available, we can actually do a little setup like an inflatable shower recess like that, and shower over the top of it, and then the water just gets drained to the nearest drainage hole. So we have used those before. And there's different ways you can acquire this equipment. Obviously there's hire through your Red Cross, M&G Queensland. Some good chemists will stock some of this equipment, different health and rehab companies. We can buy them secondhand, but I be wary of that all the parts are in good working order. My aged care packages, if people are on an aged care package, and NDIS can also fund some of this equipment. But it is preferable that you do talk to a health professional before you go and buy equipment, just so you know that it's going to suit you long term as well. Okay. All right. Car transfers. This is one that you could do an in-service all on your own, all day long. Yeah. It's a hard one.
Yeah, car transfers are my pet hate. They're the hardest transfers to do. And the reason why they're hard is because every car is different. How high that seat is from the ground is different in every single car. If it's really low to the ground, it'll be easier to get in because you kind of flip into the car seat, but getting out makes it incredibly difficult. The car's up high, again, it's kind of harder to get in, but it's easier to get out of. And then you've got the seats itself, and then you've got those lovely seats, those bucket seats that have kind of got that slope down like that. So again, once you get into the seat, it's quite comfortable, gives you some nice support, but getting out of them, you've kind of got to move yourself uphill and across to be able to get out of the car seat. So look, if you're finding car seats difficult, you're not alone, because they are difficult.
They're really hard. And this lovely lady's obviously helping her loved one, but she's pulling on his arm. So that's kind of a do not. But we do our best, and that is all we can hope for.
So again, there are aids out there to help with car transfers. The top left one is the name's handy bar, thank you. And this is what it looks like. So what this actually does, it kind of, if you can imagine your car and you're opening up the door, there's that little kind of, it shows it on the picture, that hook where the lock goes in of the door, that's where this bit actually goes into it. So it's like a little grab rail that you can push on to actually help standing up out of the car. The other nice thing about this, which is people don't really talk about it a lot, there is a little serrated edge in here. It won't get you anything at all. It's covered up. So if you were in an accident for whatever reason, you needed to cut the seat belt, you can actually do it with this little section here, just a multi thing. The other things that you can do to get out of the car, the middle picture is a car hoist. These are great when they work. When they don't work, and they don't work for a number of reasons. Again, as I've talked about before, every car is different, and how much space that you actually have to actually put a car hoist in and then try to get legs in as well can be really tricky. So if you have the right car and the hoist works, it's fantastic. But keep in mind, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's quite common that they don't work.
There's lots of restrictions, including your own body weight restriction. Yeah,
they can be a bit tricky to do. The top right one is a swivel cushion. So the idea behind that cushion is that you sit on it, and then the cushion itself helps you kind of to move.
Like a side seat,
yeah, to turn to the side to get those legs out of the car.
He was sitting on one today, a different version. But again, Queensland Rehab have got quite a few of these little ones.
So again, this is like a slide seat, so you can kind of help with moving across the seat, because that's a really tricky thing to do.
It's stuck on the seat.
The other thing about car transfer aids is that you can go down the path of little modifications as well. So I'm not talking, going out and buying a big wheelchair accessible car. Before that stage, you do have options where you can get extra little handles put into the car. If you have a really high car and you need a side platform to make that step up a little bit easier, you can do those sorts of things as well. So there are things that you can do as an interim before you start looking at those really big wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Okay. This is a transfer that hopefully none of you will ever have to do, but if your loved one has a fall, or if anyone has a fall and then is finding it hard to get up off the floor. And in this picture, they've fallen lovely in a big open space, but that usually doesn't happen. It's usually off the end of the bed and against a wall or by the toilet. So you're usually stuck for space where you can't bring the hoist in. And, in those instances, we usually say to people, look, if they're injured, don't move them, just make them comfortable and warm, and then ring for the ambulance who can help out.
On that point too, I should have mentioned before when we were talking hoists, with the hoist too, not a lot of hoists will actually lift from the floor. So
you have to be specific. And
if that's something that you were thinking of, a feature that you wanted in the hoist, it's something that can be looked at, but a lot of hoists won't actually hoist from the floor. They don't get down low enough.
So generally, if somebody isn't injured and they feel they could get up off the floor, there are techniques which involve rolling over onto hands and feet, like in a crawling position, and taking your time, and then getting a chair or something heavy that then the loved one can very slowly put arms on the armrest, bring one leg underneath, their strongest leg underneath, and then manoeuvre. But it is really a high risk transfer, and again, I would be getting assistance for that transfer where possible, and being shown also how to do it properly. If it is something that is happening a lot, that people are falling a lot, then you really should get someone in the home to reassess that. Okay, so what's wrong with this picture? So some of the principles that we discussed, you can look by the facial expression. She's really struggling over that thick grass to push a wheelchair. You can see the distance between the handles and the wheelchair and her feet. So yeah, there's quite a few principles there, but we do often have to push our loved ones up steep hills. It's not always easy. We do have to push across lovely parklands, up and down curbs, that's right. So I guess what we're looking for there is, where possible, always look for the curb ramps. So you're going up a ramp rather than trying to lift up a curb. Don't try and lift up a curb that's higher than you think you can manage. Never try and lift the wheelchair by its armrests either, because they usually will pop out. Make sure the brakes are off is always a good start. That's something I usually forget to do, make sure brakes are off. Try and come in close to the wheelchair when pushing. In this scenario, sometimes it's easier to do the pulling motion, so to actually pull the wheelchair backwards rather than lead with the smaller tyres. You want to lead with the bigger tyres, but keeping it close to you. And one that we fail to check often is the tyres. Make sure they're really well inflated and not flash, because it'll be easier to push if they're inflated. So I'm looking at the time and we've done so well. So what did we learn today? It was really quick, sorry about that, but we're hoping to come back and do more specific in services for you. So what we've learned today is that as a carer, you are the most important person. You have the most important role in this situation. It's a role that is endless. It's physically and mentally demanding. And it is important to look after yourself and your own health needs first. You need to prioritise your own health needs first to avoid, injury and burnout. So where possible, keeping yourself fit, attending to those medical needs that you have. Touch base with health professionals like Peter and myself, or your physios, or whoever else that you're using in the community to give you support and advice. Get assistance where possible. So that's where sometimes you might have informal family that can help, or you might have a lovely neighbour who can come in and help, friends. And you've got your formal supports too, which can be people from different agencies, personal care attendants that can come in and give you a little bit of a helping hand. And lastly, there's respite, which allows people to get out and about and do other errands, and you know that your loved one is being cared for. So they're a formal support as well, and that's when talking to a support coordinator or a caseworker or a key worker, anyone that you are using, they can help you out and getting you in touch with these people and referring you onwards. Acknowledgements. Whilst Peter and I would like to take all the credit, we didn't. Obviously, Google is a wonderful search engine, and YouTube. So, but yes, we also used a little bit from Back to Basics. It's a very old document, but very useful and practical hints there. The Department of Vets released it, but I don't know if they still do. But you can get copies of it, and I'm happy. They do say you can copy it and pass it out, so we can do that. Queensland Rehab, on the very short notice, gave us the aids and equipment that we didn't have to show you. This one here is a leg lifter. Okay, so when the legs are too heavy to lift, you can actually pop that under your foot, and then using the handle there and momentum, lift the legs up and into the car or onto the bed. So rehab companies like Queensland Rehab, Think Mobility, Oztech, they have lots of nifty gadgets and things that can help. So, and we hopefully have a little bit of knowledge on those gadgets, so we can give you advice on them as well.
We will be in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think we're doing go-go gadgets in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll give you some really interesting ones. Acknowledgements to Peta, because she came in on her day off to help me out, so thank you, Peta. I really appreciate it. Disclaimer, everyone has a disclaimer, so no people, children or animals were injured in the production of this in-service. So Matilda is fine, I promise, she is fine, she's down there somewhere. And obviously it was a very quick in-service, we couldn't do any hands-on that would give you a better idea of how to practically care. Still unsure or not certain, please, please, please get your health professional out to help you or get some advice. And in other words, just make sure you ask for help. And I think, if you, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. We'd love to hear feedback. So good and bad, we're all good for that. So please send us your thoughts so that we can improve, or we can give information that you think is useful for you. Again, everything we'd like to know about. So how we went with the slide sheets, how our use of technology, the props, whatever thoughts and comments you have, we'd love to hear about it. So I've just included our email address there so that you can send things through too. If you prefer not to, if you prefer to be anonymous about it, then I'm sure we could do that somehow as well.
Yeah. Okay, and so hopefully we've got a little bit of time. We do. We can stop sharing. Here we go. I'm learning every day something new.
So questions. I think we're going to put it up in the chat room down the bottom.
Is that right, Stacey? Or are you just going to collect emails? And
yep, Debbie, all good.
I'm just going to unmute everyone. So my unmute has disappeared, so I'll need to do it individually.
Okay, so we've had a request to bring out something, so that's fine. We can organise equipment for people. That's too easy. Yeah.
Okay, if you've muted yourself, I can't unmute you, but if you want to ask questions, you'll need to do that, obviously, so we can hear you. Does anyone
If you think of your question later, that's fine too. You can always send it. No.
So does anyone have any questions that they wanted to ask?
I have a question.
Yep. Sorry, was that you, Debbie?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I have problems, Kerry has problems getting from lying position to sitting position off the bed. We have got a lift bed, but Peta's coming out on Wednesday. She might be able to help me, but that's our problem, getting from lying position to seating position.
You have to note that.
Yeah, yeah, Debbie, I've got some thoughts for us to trial on today. Just with that lift bed, do you have part of the bed head? Does it come up like that?
It does, but Kerry finds the pivot point is in the wrong place, and he just gets squashed up.
Yeah, okay. Let's have a look at that when I come out. Because sometimes using that recline, as you know, can help someone get up into that sitting sort of position. So if that pivot point's in the wrong spot, we can have a bit of a look at that to see if we can do anything about it. Sometimes we can add bed extensions, so we can actually play with the position of where Kerry actually lies in the bed. But let's talk through that on Wednesday.
Yep. The message is that every single person is different, and no method is going to be 100% great for every person. So, yeah, it's having a play.
And with that too, there's also if we can't use equipment to kind of help with that transfer, there are ways that I can teach you actually how to actually move Kerry and do it in a safe way as well.
Yep, that'll be good.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
No.
No?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How was the pitch? Was it okay? Do you think that you hear us okay? Was the information okay?
Sometimes the sound seemed to fade out.
Yeah, I think because we were turning our heads to look the other way, and I was very conscious we weren't always talking into the computer, because we were trying to do actions as well. But it's not the ideal, but yeah, we get it. We might have it.
I think your internet signal might not have been brilliant all the time, ladies. So it kind of went a bit fuzzy.
It did come up that there was, yeah, it did.
Okay, see if we can do something about that for the next one. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was great because we get a lot of inquiries from clients. So even the gadgets and the bits and pieces, and letting people know that there's so much stuff out there.
Someone's at the door.
So much to actually help people with. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I have to say I learned some things today that I hadn't heard of before, and some devices that I didn't know existed. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I think that's a conversation that's happening in the background rather
Outside.
Okay.
So if we've got no further questions, we'll wrap up. I just want to thank everyone again for attending, and thank Peter and Miriam. I did find it very.
Thank you for having us.
It was a lot of fun. We enjoyed ourselves. So thank you.
Excellent. And we will look forward to future presentations as well. Maybe try and do something about the background that you've got going on there. Find you a little bit nicer scenery to work from in the future.
Working from outside.
Yeah, I'll bring my son in for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone does think of any further questions that they want to ask, feel free to email us on either that occupational therapy at mndaq.org.au email address, or the support groups one, or email the ladies individually if you're already in contact, or give us a call, however works for you. We're keen to provide as much support as people need from us. So thanks again for attending, and the video should be available on our website in coming weeks. Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.